Hello and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. There's all kinds of family. We chose this one. This is episode 121, Blue Crush, 2002. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
And I'm Joe too. And this episode is brought to you by Memories Beach Bar. Welcome to our paradise. Memories Bar and Restaurant was established in October 2009 by Ching, the owner and proprietor, who started the restaurant on the same site as his family's restaurant, which was sadly destroyed by the tsunami in 2004. Shout out Memories Beach Bar.
Shout out Memories Beach Bar, and shout out to Brian High School Slumber Party Rodriguez for effectively sponsoring this episode. This was a Patreon pick. If you want to give us movies to watch, patreon.com/toofast2forever, or just toofast2forever.com. Go over there, pick movies for us to watch. You'll also know what our next 3 lap themes are. Pick one for each lap. So big things happening at toofast2forever.com. But Joe, extracurricular activities. It's been a week since we did this because the last episode we talked to Andy Tudor, the game director of Fast and Furious Crossroads. So what have you been up to in the last week?
Big thing. I know you saw it. I posted a picture of it. Rachel made probably the best cheesecake I've ever had in my life.
Well, she said, I saw her tweet that said, I saw your Instagram, but I also saw her tweet that said it's not only the best cheesecake that she's ever made, that's been ever made, period. Full stop, flat out.
I don't question it. It really is that fucking good. That's what we did. She made a cheesecake. We used the Instant Pot for the cheesecake, so you kind of like pressure cook it in like a water bath, and that was interesting. And it came out and it looked beautiful and tasted even better. So she made a turtle cheesecake. That's what I've been up to, and I've been like eating through that. Sadly, I mean, it's only a 6-inch cheesecake, so it's not like huge, right? It's like definitely 6 pieces of decent pieces of cheesecake. This weekend, I tried to get her to watch some movies that she's never seen before that I really like. So we watched like Airplane. She's never seen Airplane before.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I quote it all the time when we're at the airport and stuff like that, or just in life. So I was like, watch it. She knew like a lot of the jokes, but she watched it and she was like, oh yeah, it's really good. Good job. We've been watching like, all of our shitty TV shows like Love After Lockup, all the 90 Days. We just started this show on Netflix, High Score, that's like kind of like a documentary series.
Oh, I saw that was trending. Yeah. I don't know what that's about
video games. It's pretty cool so far. It's like a nice combination of like nostalgia, but also like the people that were making games and like the sound designers. I mean, it's Netflix, so they're doing a pretty decent job so far. I'm 2 episodes into it, and it's just amusing background television to watch. We were talking, we talk later in this episode about Robert Pattinson, and the new Batman trailer just came out.
I have some news adjacent to that, which we'll get to on the streets. Not about Robert Pattinson, but go on. I just have more from yesterday, but go ahead.
We were watching another Jack Whitehall stand-up special, right? Because I talked before that I watched one of them, so I watched an earlier one. I forget the name of it. He mentioned to me, he mentioned on the special that he was in elementary school with Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
And I'm like, imagine that class, like if you're not Robert Pattinson or Jack Whitehall. Like I'm sure that it's like, like a nice boarding school that they went to, or like a very nice private elementary school. But still, you had Robert Pattinson and Jack Whitehall like in your 3rd grade class. You'd be like, come on, man.
Do you think, I don't even think they're on the same level. I mean, I'd never heard of Jack Whitehall before a month ago, you know what I mean? So.
But I'm saying, even still, like, if you were in their class, you would know who they are, right? And you're not one of these 2 people, so you'd be like, I was talking to you about it. Imagine if you're any other kid that was in that class. Like, no matter what you did, like, you're not famous, right? Like, he has a couple Netflix specials, Robert Pattinson's in all these movies and Twilight, and you're like, yeah, like, I'm a stockbroker.
But I mean, fame isn't everything. It's all just about being happy. And you're like, hey, because that they have a story to tell at every party, like, oh yeah, Robert Pattinson was in my 3rd grade class, so,
And so was Jack Whitehall, and you'd be like, fuck, both of them? You're like, yeah, dude, it was really crazy. It was a pretty cool class.
Anything else of note in the last week or no?
No, I think I just blew through all of it. I think that's pretty much what I've been up to. Nothing super crazy.
So as you saw on Twitter, I set a new personal record yesterday.
Congratulations.
I watched 9 movies, because I had been sort of queuing up movies that I wanted to see, and because, as you know, as we've not really talked about on here, but we've talked about offline, Mike and I are pushing to end Hanks are the Memories. We're doing 2 a week now, so in addition to the 2 of these a week, we're doing 2 Hanks a week.
It's insane. I don't know how you're doing
in a week, we are going to be done with Hanks. So
that's cool.
We're going to have recorded through, I think the one we're recording tonight is like the last week in September. So like we're way ahead, right? But
Awesome.
we're pushing ahead, whatever. And so I had been building up movies that I wanted to see, but I had not had time because
Watching
number one,
these.
yeah, just I don't really feel like watching a movie when I'm not watching a movie that I quote unquote have to watch. Yesterday I was like, okay, I have nothing going on.
Yankees were canceled.
This was even before that. I was just like, my original idea was just like to watch the Yankees like this morning or something, or not, or just skip the game or whatever. 9 movies is a lot. I mean, I'm not saying it's not a lot, but it was 13 hours in total. So in all things like that, like it's not crazy. I mean, 13 hours is still a lot, but it's not like 9 2-hour movies. Like they were sort of carefully kind of not curated, but picked. And the other thing that like I did, which actually worked out genre-wise, is each movie that I watched was shorter than the previous. Like I just started with long and got short. And so the last one that I watched was the new Shudder movie, the new movie on Shudder called Host, which is 56 minutes. But it's a horror movie, like all captured on Zoom. So like it went from being like an hour 49 was the longest one, all the way down to
That's
56
not that
minutes.
long, even.
No, that's kind of the goal. Like when I've watched 7 or 8 in a day before, it's been like, okay, I kind of have to watch 90-minute movies. And so like I was looking at the list of movies, I'm like, a lot of these are short. Like I bet I could knock these out like in like I was thinking, maybe I'll do 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever. I'm like, wait a minute, like let me add these numbers up. I'm like, actually, I think I could do 9 in a day. And so I started a little bit before 9 a.m. and I ended at 1 a.m. But I also in that time walked 3 miles. I
Nice,
also
congrats.
edited the podcast, the Blue Crush podcast. So it's not like I was just only watching this.
This episode of this podcast.
Oh yes, this episode, the back half of this. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I was able to do other things that there's a little bit of a balance. The one I want to make note of, so I two that I want to point out. Number one, the best one I saw was this documentary called Boys State. So they kind of rush through the history of this. I don't know if it's every year in every state or if they alternate or whatever. Boys State and Girls State are these gatherings of like 16 and 17-year-old boys and girls as they prepare for like I guess a life in politics. So this one is about the 2018 gathering of 1100 boys in Texas. And so they are thrown kind of in a room, like they take over, it seems like the Capitol building for like a weekend or something. And
Okay.
they are split into 2 parties, the Federalists and the Nationalists, and they are basically like, cool, like go form government. So like figure out who's running for governor, who's running for party chair, who's running for this, who's running for that. And so the documentary follows 4 or 5 of these boys as they all rise or try to run for whatever. It's fascinating. And like
Yeah, it
the one
sounds it.
kid, there's 2 kids that you're kind of rooting for, I think. The documentary, I mean, even though like it's Texas and there's a lot of like, you can't take my guns away and pro-life this and that, whatever, like it's very like, oh, this is Texas. The documentary I think also sort of has a liberal slant because the 2 kids that you're kind of rooting for are these 2 in the one party that are like very clearly like one's a black kid who's just I know that I'm facing prejudice here in Texas, whatever.
Yeah.
But the other kid shows up wearing a Beto for governor t-shirt. I'm like, hell yeah, like man, it's just like he's like there, just he's being so nice and just like shaking everybody's hand, like kind of knowing what he's doing, like stirring shit a little bit. It's interesting to see these kids who like all aspire to a life of something, whether they're just interested in politics or want to run for office or whatever. You see them like sort of compromise some of their morals. Like, well, you got to just say what you got to say to get elected. It's like, no, you don't. Like that's like, you don't have to. But it's like
Learning
so
early.
that was the first movie I watched yesterday, and it was the best one that I watched yesterday. So if you have Apple TV Plus, so like if you bought a new Apple device, I think last fall they gave you a year for free. So check that out. I would recommend that. But the other one of note for this podcast, I watched a movie called She Dies Tomorrow, and I don't remember if I mentioned this on air or not. But it's a brand new movie that's written and directed by Amy Seimetz, who I like from a lot of like indie and sort of she's also like in Alien, like the Prometheus, Alien Covenant, the Prometheus sequel. But she's in
Okay.
a bunch of stuff. She's in Upstream Color, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. But she wrote and directed this movie called She Dies Tomorrow, and it's this like experimental horror movie where a woman thinks she has a vision that she's going to die tomorrow, and like what that does to her. And it kind of is like it follows in that she kind of passes it on. I knew somewhere in this movie Michelle Rodriguez was in it. And I'm
Ooh.
watching the whole movie, and I'm like, where the fuck? I'm like, I couldn't have missed her. Even though I'm watching movies for 13 hours, I'm not really on my phone yesterday. Like, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I'm just like, this is like my vacation, my staycation for one day, eating shitty food, drinking shitty drinks. Like, just, this is my day.
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm not going to talk to the world. I'm doing this thing. So I'm like, I don't think I missed her because I'm not like distracted while watching. And then, like, with 10 minutes left, she shows up almost entirely disconnected to the story and just like does a thing and just like she's on screen for like 4 or 5 minutes and I'm like, how
was
did
it?
this happen? I don't get it. Like it's interesting and she's cool in it, but it's like I don't understand where this story, how this intercuts. Like when we were doing what we thought was going to be the Fast and Furious watch party, and we were looking at trailers and whatever, and that's when we found that Stunt Woman trailer that she's producing
Yes.
or narrating or whatever. And I also found out about this movie, and I was like, oh, maybe we'll do this lap. We are not going to, because I don't think you'll like this movie, number one. But number two, she's only in it for like 5 minutes, and like kind of like she's involved in the plot, but not really. If I didn't know she was in it, I would have been like, holy shit, like look, it's Michelle Rodriguez. But like it's not.
Knowing she's in it and you're looking for her, you're like,
right.
what the
I was
fuck
like,
is this?
I couldn't have missed her. When Mike and I especially, and sometimes I don't think really, I guess maybe some early Zac Efron or early Gosling, but like where we watch these movies for the podcast, we're like, okay, we're watching for the guy, but like where is like we didn't miss him, did we? And then like he's on screen for like a second, like oh, or like Channing in War of the Worlds,
Yes.
a movie he's not in. We're like, wait, where's Channing? And so I thought it was one of those where she's like on screen for like 30 seconds, and I like look down, or I don't know, but like no, she's in it for some reason. So like it
has
reminded
like a very
me,
like extra styly part. Like,
Yeah,
like almost like an extra. Like, why'd you get
it's
Michelle
weird,
Rodriguez
yeah.
for this?
It reminded me when I was in Austin and I went to see the Nicholas Winding Refn movie, The Neon Demon. Keanu Reeves is in that, like in like kind of a minor role. Like he just plays like a hotel manager at the hotel where Elle Fanning's character stays for part of the movie. And like he's got like 2 or 3 scenes, and like he's in the movie for probably like 5 or 10 minutes. Like kind of like, but he's more important to the story than Michelle Rodriguez is here. After the movie, Nicholas Winding Refn was there. I think I might have even told the story. But like I raised my hand. I'm like, hey, can you just explain like why and
Keanu?
how is Keanu in this movie? Like what? Like it doesn't, like Tim League, the CEO of the Draft House, was like, thank you for finally someone asking this question, because like I want to know too, why is Keanu? And so like he has this whole story about like how he wanted to work with Keanu, blah blah blah. So there's a history there. So I'm sure in some regard, maybe something that I'm missing, Michelle Rodriguez and Amy Seimetz have a connection. Like, and she just like not
Yeah.
like do me a favor, but just like, oh, I have a small part in my movie. You want to come shoot for like it
And they're
could have
buds.
taken more than an hour or two, right? But like
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just so weird to see, like, couldn't know that she was coming and then be like, oh, that's it. Oh, okay.
No, it has to be that, right? That they have to be like friends, and they were like, "Hey, dude, I need to be in one of your movies," and you're like, "Well, but you're shooting this thing, so like, I have a couple, like, I have like one character I didn't fill yet. Do you want to be that?" And you're like, "Yeah, I could do that," just like as like a friendly, fun time thing. But yeah, you're right. Why would you have Keanu or Michelle Rodriguez, either of them, not play a major role in your film when they're clearly real actors, right? Like,
Yeah, but I think that's basically all I've been doing. Like, I just watched a bunch of movies. I've been recording podcasts. Things will open up shortly, not this week, but shortly. But
Cool.
but Joe, we have a Patreon page here on the show, toofast2forever.com. Shout out to Cassie Wilson, Jake Freer, Ben Milliman, Nick Burris, Alex Ellenen, Justin Kleiman, Brian Rodriguez of High School Slumber Party, Haley Gerbies, Wes Hampton, Christian Larson, Jerry Robinson, and, as we mentioned last episode, Dan the Duke Hayden for supporting us at the $5 level or above. Thank you all so very
Seriously.
much.
Thanks.
If you want swag and merchandise, if you want early access to episodes, like we put on Patreon the entire Andy Tudor episode like 2 or 3 days early. So if you want that. Also, we made a promise on there. We're not there yet, but we said that when we hit 20 patrons, we're currently at 15. When we hit 20, we're going to record a director's commentary style version of the first movie. So we're closing in on that. We're not there yet, but that'll only be on Patreon. That'll never be on the feed. So if you want access to, I don't know what we're gonna say that we haven't already said 7 times or in
during
every
a watch
minute.
party.
It'll be on there. It'll be a Patreon exclusive. So if you want access to that, toofast2forever.com. And we also have an email address, family@cageclub.me, and we got a handful of emails today.
Cool. I'm excited to hear them. Hopefully they listened to the last episode.
Well, we got at least 1, maybe 2 about that. But first up, we have, like I mentioned on the last episode, Dan Hayden just became a $5 patron. Shout out, Dan. But then he sent in 2 emails, kind of one of them just a PS. Subject line, finally a member of the family. Hey guys, glad to have finally joined the family. Since the start of the pandemic, I've been plowing through podcasts on my bike rides and at night in the Dan Cave/Duke Cave, whichever sounds less childish. I like Dan Cave because it's the play on Man Cave, right? So I think that might, yeah. He says, this show's been on my list for months. Now that I'm strapped in to ride or die with you guys, I thought I'd contribute. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
I'm hoping to stay up to date currently with what you guys release while going back and checking out past shows. All right, I like that strategy. Very cool.
He's double-edged sword there, right? Like,
yeah.
Doing both at the same time. I like it.
Says, Nico and Kevo have been a lot of fun this lap, and I'm looking forward to checking out their shows as well. Anyway, keep putting out the great content. I'll be listening listening, Duke. And then he says in a separate email, P.S. I've got nothing but time.
We've got nothing but time, brother.
I'm also sure, and I don't, maybe not, maybe sure is the wrong word, but he's got a new baby. And I know that historically people are just like, it's 2:30 in the morning, the baby won't sleep, you're just on the couch, like letting your wife sleep, or you know what I mean? Like one of those. I'm sure the modern equivalent could be like, I just need something to like keep my mind like that I'm going to go crazy otherwise with the lack of sleep. So maybe a podcast fills that gap. I don't know.
That would kind of make sense, right? Like you need to be like half awake but not awake, and you need to be paying attention but not paying attention. I think that we're pretty good at giving you something to ignore.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Next email from Wes Hampton, subject line F&F Crossroads, what up fam?
What up, Wes?
Wow, what an episode with Andy. I haven't played the game, but I did find some time to watch a playthrough. As you know, it's not very long, so it wasn't too hard to get through. Right away, I was so excited about the prospect of new F&F content that I wasn't really concerned with the gameplay or story elements.
Yeah.
I liked the introduction of the Tatacool, and I thought it was fun seeing Dom and Letty take care of things on their own for a bit, but I absolutely love the new characters.
Same. We're big fans. Yep.
Aside from what it would mean for diversity and representation in the cast, I just think they're really interesting with an interesting shared history that I would love to know more about.
Same.
I also think most fans agree that if these movies are going to keep going, they have to transition in new family members over time, and Cam and Vienna are great candidates for that.
I agree. And so did Andy. That's what that's his main point, is he wanted to make characters that could be seen in the films and we would want, and I agree with you. I think that they would make a great addition to the movies. So
yes, agreed. The fact that they cast and modeled the characters on recognizable on-screen actors says to me that they at least want to have the option of bringing these characters into the cinematic world, which I agree with. It's a new trend in video games, like the last 5 years. Cast actors in roles, like there's a lot of PlayStation games, like PlayStation exclusive games, like Until Dawn, which is this horror movie, did it a bunch. Death Stranding just has Norman Reedus in it. The new Cyberpunk game has Keanu Reeves in it. Like they're doing it, and it's a weird kind of blend where it's like, on the one hand, it's entertainment, so I get that it's a draw there, but on the other hand, there are genuinely great voice actors who are losing jobs to actors, and it's just it's a balance, like guys like Nolan North and stuff, they're just such great voice actors who were the leads of Uncharted, but you could also be like, hey, Uncharted basically is Nathan Fillion, let's just cast Nathan Fillion on the part. And it's you could, or you could have Nolan North be...
Yeah, you're right. That's something I didn't think about, is that by giving the job to a movie actor, that you might be, taking food out of the mouths of somebody that is a voice actor just because they're more recognizable. And that's, yeah, I get it.
I'm sensitive to this in a couple different ways because of certain podcasts that I listen to, but on Never Not Funny, Jimmy Pardo is essentially a professional game show host. But a lot of game shows you see on TV now are hey, Alec Baldwin hosts or Steph Curry hosts. It's
Steph Curry,
I get that, but it's kind of want to have a professional game show host. Because
a personality.
Yeah, exactly. Just someone who's I can command, I know when to hit my marks and whatever. And it's cool to see LeBron James or Steph Curry or whoever do a thing, but it's also hey, maybe, have somebody who is specialized in this, and let Steph Curry play basketball. I don't know. No shade to Steph Curry. The other thing is that a lot of animated movies, and we've seen this especially recently, when we watched Smallfoot, the Channing movie, where it's every snowman is just a huge voice. So it's just oh yeah, there's Zendaya. Oh, there's Channing. Oh, there's Danny DeVito or whoever, right? It's just instead of having maybe people, not that they're bad voice actors, but instead of having people like John DiMaggio, the voice of Bender and all the, whatever, you could have him who doesn't necessarily get as many live action roles.
Yeah.
And it's a weird, I get why you do that, because somebody's going to be oh, I'm going to go see that, my daughter loves Zendaya, she's going to go see this new movie. You don't have that with just, good voice actors, but I don't know. It's a weird balance.
They're doing it because of marketability, but at the same time, you're right, yeah. I never thought about it until you just brought it up.
It's not a good thing or a bad thing, it's just kind of the way that it is now, so, yeah. Wes says, I think what would presumably be the Letty-led spin-off, which you and I have talked with Wes about being instead of calling it the female-led or girl-led or whatever, we're just going to call it the Letty-led, even though we don't know that, based on our conversation with Andy. If it's not, things are wrong.
But we've decided that for now, the placeholder that we have, because we can't call it the spin-off because we have Hobbs and Shaw, and we don't have a title for it, but for now we're just
the Letty-led
to
Fast
it
and
as
Furious.
Yeah, the Letty-led spin-off.
Yep. Makes the most sense to give them room to shine, but I would love to see a cameo in F9. It seems unlikely, but that would be great. Anyway, I took some notes. Here's what I've got. To answer your question, no, my trivia has not been posted to Tokyo Drift. The long and short of it is, I was rejected twice.
Yes.
Meanwhile, did you know that, quote, in the 2005 film Dukes of Hazzard, there is a scene where Bo Duke drifts the General Lee around a traffic circle in what is supposed to be Atlanta, Georgia?
Did you see Chris Podcast social media post yesterday that said there's somebody furiously adding that Robert Pattinson was in a Christopher Nolan and Batman movie in the same year? Trivia fact to IMDb, and I thought of Wes when he wrote, like, you know what I mean? Like, just like the dumbest trivia will get approved, but Wes is still fighting with them.
What's frustrating to me is that, like, this morning I watched Toy Story 4 to record the Hanks episode tonight. Great movie, of course. And I go to the IMDb trivia, and there are literally, I've never seen a number this big, 564 bits of trivia. And I looked at it, I'm like, I'm not reading this. Like, I read it once for Keanu, and I'm not doing it again for Hanks. And so I just Apple F for Hanks, and I was like, cool. As I'm looking through the Hanks trivia, there's one that's just like, based on the events of the story, there can't be a Toy Story 5 due to rewrites. And I'm like, that's not true. That's explicitly not true. Like, that's that's just like a subjective statement that has no basis in anything. It's like 8 of 33 people found that interesting. That's not trivia. That's not a fact. That's just a guy saying, like, there can't be a next movie. It's like, yeah, there absolutely can be. Like, what are you talking about? Zeph has the bluest of blue eyes. Like, it's just the bar to clear is apparently so low for everyone but Wes.
Exactly.
I saw that Hanks one. I was just like, that's not a thing. That's not trivia. That's not even true.
No, and like, unless you like blew up the studio, killed everyone involved, and like murdered all the characters in the last movie,
right,
there's still a shot that you could make a fifth Toy Story. Like the idea doesn't need to have anything, right?
Yeah.
It just toys that move and talk. Like, you can make another Toy Story no matter what.
And like, we haven't recorded that, but I think that's going to be a large part of our conversation today. It's like, well, it seems like Woody is off doing his own thing. If you do a Toy Story 5, it doesn't make sense for him to be in it. And maybe that's what the guy is trying to say, but the way it's just like, it's physically impossible. It's just like, no, okay, guy, okay. Anyway.
No matter what, you can make another one, yes.
Anyway, Wes says, the number of references and Easter eggs that I caught and you and Andy mentioned is so great. It points to the fact that he and the team are actually fans of the series because it wasn't just obvious stuff connected to the plot, but deeper references as offhanded comments. I was especially excited about Racer's Edge. Harry's really done well for himself.
He went from criminal that was getting strong-armed by the law to an international businessman. I agree. I think he's the American dream at that point.
I really appreciate that he's made a point of talking about how the theme of family doesn't really hit until 4. It's not until Letty, quote-unquote, dies, and Brian and Dom and Mia kind of are forced to reconcile that family becomes the most important thing.
We talked about that with Wes before. That, like, you know, we say that there's like a lot of family in the first one, but really it doesn't like establish family as the core value of the films until 4.
I can't believe we finally have what is probably the closest we'll ever get to a definitive answer of No Niece Denise. It's basically what most of us thought, but it's nice to have someone so confident in their explanation.
Yeah, I know.
So here's the question. Do we ask that question in upcoming things, or do we take that question off the either-ors?
I think we still gotta ask it. I don't know, because now we kind of have a benchmark for it, right?
Say, like we talked about on the episode, say we talked to Jordan Brewster, we're like, what does food all over the place mean? And she tells us. Can we ask that question?
Oh, I don't know, man.
Because it feels like we have an answer now.
It feels like we have an... Because he was like, yes, we would all know what you mean. Like, he was very confident about it. Do we take Andy at his word? Do we trust him?
I think he's the most reliable source we've had in this podcast. No offense to our past guests.
I think so, too. I have no reason to not trust him, right? So.
Right. He mentioned that Han may have changed in F9 in some way, but I think it's pretty obvious from the trailer. He got a haircut, that's it, no big deal. Other than that, I'm sure it's the same old Han, nothing suspicious to worry about there. That's it for this time. I'm really looking forward to Reef Week. Until next time, stay furious. Wes.
Yeah, nothing to see here. Move along. Han
Keep
changed.
on moving.
Got a haircut, that's it. Dude, when he dropped the Han, like, is Han the same? I'm like, I don't fucking know. You looked at the script, bro. Like... Are you going to tell us if Han's the same or not? I didn't even think about this. That wasn't even an option in my head. I mean, like, I guess we talked about, like, you know, maybe Etion rebuilt him and stuff like that, right? Like, we brought that up. Because if he's back, we didn't see a body, but he could be half robot now. We don't know. And we don't know what Andy means by this, because you guys heard as much, like, we didn't cut anything out.
Well, he was also kind of saying, like, when he framed things like that, he's just like, I'm not really saying anything. I'm just saying, like, just keep an eye out. Like, it's kind of teasing, but it's also, like, it almost could be spun like, oh, I'm just actually interested in, like, finding out myself, right?
I'm
like,
a fan.
Cypher is this, or if Han
this
is
is
this,
my fan theory. Exactly.
Yeah. We'll let you do your own sleuthing, but you found a thing on Reddit. I don't want to bring it up here because I don't want to throw him under the bus. Where he kind of definitively answered a question we've been asking. It's just like, is that?
But it was from a long time ago. I didn't find it. Rachel found it. Because she's, fucking chief internet detective. She's the best Brian O'Connor on the internet that there is, right? And she found something where
one of the questions that we're asking, it seems like has a definitive answer, but it's also like, that feels so...
Yeah, it felt weird.
We'll see.
If it's right, then I'm going to go back and we're going to dig through a whole bunch of other stuff and try to find something.
I mean, it's very easy to go from there, but yeah, anyway. Well, I know that we're being vague, but just do your own sleuthing on Reddit. Just think of the questions we've asked and look for things. Go from there.
Yeah, where did we get to this conversation from? Do the back steps, and you'll figure out what we're talking about. Yep.
Last email from Jerry Robinson, subject line, been a while.
What up, Jerry? How are you doing, bud?
Says, been a while, guys. I'm still caught up. Nico and Kevo are awesome. I love their theories, especially how the first two movies are being like Solo and Rogue One, kind of. I love it.
Same.
I've been moved to another position at work and training my replacement, which is fun, but on a channel called AMC, they're showing the first 4 Fast movies. When I was younger, AMC, they would show old movies from the 50s, and now it changed and makes me feel kind of old,
I know. I definitely know. And, like, every Saturday since pandemic started, AMC, TNT, or TBS is playing, like, 3 of the Fast and the Furious movies in a row. Like, pretty much any weekend. This weekend, Rachel was playing, I feel like they, like, just follow the Cage Club network, because, like, this weekend was, like, Shia weekend. There was, like, 7 Transformers movies yesterday, and then Disturbia was on this morning. And I'm like, is it just Shia weekend? And I send them to you all the time, because, like, sometimes there'll be, like, Cage ones, and then sometimes there'll be, like, High School Slumber Party ones, and Fast and the Furious ones. Yeah.
Says, I don't know the system, but I watched the full walkthrough of Crossroads on YouTube. Took about 3 hours, but it's worth the watch, and I used to watch walkthroughs of video games if I didn't have the system. Says, man, your interview with the game director was dope. Jordana Brewster should really reach out to you guys. Well, yeah, I mean, hey,
I don't think it'll work like that, Jerry, but we would love to have Jordana. I don't think she's ever going to reach out to us. If she does, I will be fucking shocked, and you'll be the first one to hear that you were right. But I don't think that's how it's going to work.
Baseball news, Padres and A's are killing it this year. Ilion and I were watching the Bay Bridge series between the Giants and A's, and the Giants were ready to win, up by 2 in the 9th, when the Giants closer came in and all he did was pitch fastballs, and then on 2 of the 3 games, A's hit a 3-run homer to take the lead and win.
Well, Wells is going to be happy.
Yeah, wasn't upset about the loss, but more at the closer, like the Giants need to fire him. At least Ilion is happy, and that's all that matters.
That's all that matters, brother. That's a good way to think about it.
We're also in the process of trying to move. Well, I know there's a house in California, 1327. Go check out that. Good real estate. That's all I got that's all I got for now. Be fast and never last.
We won't, I promise, brother. Good luck with your move, man. I hope it works out well. I know that could be stressful, especially now with like pandemic shit, but like honestly, it might be a good time to move.
It seems like, well, it's depends.
You can kind of clean down a whole brand new place. Just wipe it all down yourself so you know it's clean and fresh starts. I like it.
Joe, on the streets, news about the Fast and Furious. I don't have Fast and Furious news, but I have news out of DC FanDome. So number 1, there's now Black Adam trailers. There's a couple different things.
Okay.
So there's Black Adam content, footage, images, whatever. That's the new Dwayne Johnson, The Rock superhero.
Yes.
If there's a trailer for that, I have not watched that yet, but there's a lot of stuff out there. But what I did watch, there is the Suicide Squad roll call video where there's no footage, it's just characters and actors and pictures. It's all just like, it's like basically
so they're doing a second Suicide Squad?
Yeah, it's called The Suicide Squad, and it's directed by James Gunn. So when he was fired from Guardians 3, before he got rehired to Guardians 3, they hired him over on the Suicide Squad. And so this has not only Idris Elba, but also John Cena. So a couple bad guys, ostensibly, from the Fastiverse in a single movie.
Little crossover there. That's cool. I like that.
And then also a ton of stuff about R-Pats as Batman, not Fastiverse related, but this podcast related. New trailer out, which I did not watch, will not watch. And also a new Wonder Woman 84 trailer, Gal Gadot. So a lot of our guys and ladies, a lot of footage out of FanDome yesterday.
I didn't want to watch the R-Pat trailer, the Batman trailer, because, I'm with you. I'm going to see the movie no matter what. But I just wanted to get a peek at him being Batman. And obviously it's exactly what we thought. And he's going to be great. And I'm really excited. It was funny. I was talking to my friends and we were saying, like, I was like, oh, dude, I'm such a Robert Pattinson fan. My one friend, Zach, that only watches blockbusters was like, why are you a fan of him? And I'm like, well, because you only watch blockbusters, you have no idea that he's been in all these great movies like we were talking about later. And my other friend was like, yeah, you didn't see Good Times? And everybody, like, we're all like, if you watch real movies, then you'd be excited about this. So
Good Time is great. All right, Joe, the Ana Lucia Cortez Leticia Ortiz Lost for a Minute, Season 2, Episode 8, Collision. So this is our first. So I was teasing last episode. Last time we talked about a lost episode that we're going to have an Ana Lucia episode toward the
Yes.
end of the season. I completely missed this one. So we have two Ana Lucia episodes. This is one where it's all Letty in the flashbacks. We get a history of who she was. And this is kind of what you were looking for. So please hit me with your thoughts about Collision.
One, I want to give you shit because for me missing Shannon getting shot, we see it 3 episodes in a row. So if there's anything for me to miss in Lost, it was that because they've been playing.
Hold on, wait. You don't give me shit for you basically looking at your phone instead of doing your homework for the podcast. But anyway, go on.
I'm vindicated here because they play it in every we saw it at the the end of the last 2 episodes ago.
You're not vindicated. You just they covered you. That you weren't right. It's not
No.
You're not right to not watch the thing. It's just that they showed it a couple times.
I know. Too many times. Like, you don't need to see it happen 4 times. Like, we saw it again. We see, like, the aftermath. We get to it at the end of the last episode. We get it again at the beginning of this episode. And then they continue about it here. So I'm like, if there's anything for me to miss, though, come on. It was that. Like, we're still talking about it. We see now that Letty is a cop. And she's arguably a worse cop than Brian is.
Well, she's trigger happy. I don't know that she's worse. I mean, she seems like she's
bad. She's a bad judge of character. Every person it makes sense why she built the jail now, right? Like,
Yeah.
that was like her first instinct is to build a prison cell.
Her bad judge of character is that she thought that a kid coming out of an apartment building was innocent, and then that guy, he shot her, killed her unborn child in the process.
Yes.
And then that sort of fucked her up, which is understandable. But it's
Yeah,
not
she
like
has
she has this
PTSD about
history. It's just like,
Well, now she does. On the island, she fucked up which guy she tried to lock up.
but that's all after. I'm just saying before that happened, before the one incident where she like made a bad judgment call, but like erring on the side of caution. After that, everything is broken bad. But before that, it's not like she was always quick to the trigger. It's like this one.
Well, we
thing-
don't know.
The episode kind of said like that's the breaking point.
But like, we don't know. She could have a long history of just being really bad at making decisions, judge a character. It doesn't seem like that. You're right. You can assume that she was fine until she had this traumatic episode happen to her, and then now, she's a little trigger happy, which I said last time.
Now we have the reason why. We know why.
When we're on the island, and like we're starting this episode before we even see that she's a cop, and she's like very trigger happy and like pointing the gun at everyone. Rachel described her as Brian and Vince had an annoying child. She's just like the aggro-ness of Vince, but like the copness of Brian, and just like waving the gun at everyone. I'm like, yo, you need to calm down, lady. Like, I get it. Like, you're a little tense, but like, it's too much. Just not everyone here is needs to be shot. You just killed an innocent person, so relax. You're a cop. Like, chill.
I mean, it's her form of law and order, and I feel like not defending what she's doing, but she's she's scared out of her mind. There's people that are literally coming and taking their people, and she's like, hey, I can't trust anybody. I gotta defend myself.
Yeah, but like, use some fucking fix your judgment, please. Like your judgment barometer or something.
I mean, a lot of the show, a lot of loss, and every show, everything is just like how trauma affects you. So I think that like,
yes, true.
It's easier said than done.
And it's more realistic this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Than if she was just like, hey, all of a sudden I'm like the ultimate good cop, and like I'm
the only
just the
person
sheriff
who improved on the island is Locke. Everybody else, like, things are not good.
True. Very true.
Which is understandable because they all crashed on an island and now have to survive.
Yes. I thought it was very interesting. She walks into the police department, right? Like, because we see that, like, she was, like, getting some therapy, and then he gives her a badge back. We learn she's a cop. She walks into the police department, and, like, the captain of the police department is a Hispanic woman. I was like, oh, my God, what are the chances that there's 2 Hispanic women in the same police department, and one of them's the captain? She's like, thanks, Mom. And I'm like, well, that makes sense. Like, I was like really excited that I was like, wow, man, like, this doesn't feel real at all. And then it was like, it was her mom. And I was like, oh, okay.
Well, her mom is very protective of her, too. So it's very, it's the motherly instinct. Again, all thematic, maybe a little on the nose, but again, like the mother-daughter and just or mother-child and like what Letty lost, right? So.
Yes. I had a fascination this episode.
Okay.
She gets sent to, like, evidence, right? Like, that's how she gets her job back. And she's like, no, man, I need a post. Give me a car. I need to be back on the streets. And I was thinking about the first film when Vince is, like, talking shit to Brian. And he's like, and then put your dress on because I'm sending you back to the streets where you belong. Mm-hmm. And I was like, Letty's trying to go back to the streets. And Vince is trying to send Brian to the streets. But we talked about this. But do you think that who is a worse cop? Ana Lucia or Brian?
Brian.
Ana Lucia is pointing a gun at somebody.
Brian has no
TV.
excuse. Ana should not be a cop. They should both not be cops, but Ana it seems like, was a good cop until she was affected by trauma, and she's forcing her way back into, she's stubborn. Brian's just bad at his job.
Okay, that
I
makes
think they're
sense.
different. I see the inclination to compare them, but I think
they're two separate entities.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right, because Brian didn't really, like, have, like, a trauma. He just, like, shouldn't have been a cop to begin with, right? Like,
Right.
he just was naturally more of a criminal than a cop.
Or should have quit, like, 100 times.
Yeah. Then she does a bad job of just, like, holding prisoners, like, because they just all escape. Like, I was like, dude, you, like, come on, man, like, your whole job as a cop is to, like, you know, have, like, this jail thing down, at least. And then, like, Michael runs away. She eventually unties Saeed.
Well, somebody says to her, "You're not a great judge of character." She's like, "No,
yes, the blonde lady. The blonde lady says
Libby.
this. Yes, she says this. Yeah, she is not a good judge of character.
What I liked about this, the on-island dynamic, was there's kind of an inverse, like we saw in season 1, which we did not talk about, but like Saeed, when he's torturing Sawyer for where I think they're looking for the guns or the meds, the water. They're looking for something they think that Sawyer is stashed away, right? And so Saeed is the aggressor because he has the Republican Guard, and here he's kind of met his, not equal, but like his version,
match.
like another version of whatever, where he's then like, no, he's tied up and like...
He was kind of the sheriff, right? Because he was the only one that had a gun that they like really knew about, and they were like, okay, like he's the kind of the sheriff. Like he was the law on their side of the island.
No, I don't think so. No, he was the specialist that they called in. Saeed didn't really have a gun, I don't think. I think they had the one sort of like group gun that they took from the agent that was transporting Kate, but then they had the whole case of guns that they found later. But they had just like kind
I
of
always
the group
felt like
gun.
he was more of the sheriff role, though, right? Because like you have
No,
like the doctor,
I think
Jack.
Jack's always like Jack is everything. Jack is the sheriff. I think Saeed was the
Okay.
specialist that they call, and they're like, you need to do this because like I can't. Like Jack's not going to torture Sawyer, but Saeed's like, I've done this before. I can do it again.
Yeah, I can do it.
But I liked in this is that they kind of bond over their like traumatic history, and she's saying, you know, I let him reach. All I remember was a pop. By the time I hit the ground, I thought I was dead. I feel dead, and it's just like the harrowing. It's the PTSD of the job, whether you're a soldier in war or a cop or whatever, right? So
Yeah. Plus, Letty ostensibly died in this episode. Mm-hmm. And dies in Fast and the Furious, right? Gets shot. We assumed she got shot in Fast 4. The parallels are great.
That's especially telling because she gives Saeed his gun back, and he says, like, basically, why are you doing, like, what are you doing? And she says, what good would it be to kill you? We're both already dead. Like, you know, we're already, like, screwed on this island together. Like, we might as well, like, not, like, we can't keep killing each other, right? Like, we need to, you know, live together, die alone, right? So, yeah.
I agree.
But then, unrelated to Ana Lucia, I cried in this episode. The music at the end, the emotional reunion of Rose and Bernard and Sun and Jin, tugs at my heartstrings. Loved it, loved it, loved it.
I'm so excited for more, like, I'm so excited for where this goes now that we reunited, and how Sun and Jin act, and how Rose and Bernard act, and all of these things. Like, I'm excited to see where this goes from here.
And what I'm also excited about is how the episode ends with a stare down between Jack and Ana Lucia. It's like, oh boy.
Yeah, they realize that they're like,
Oof.
oh shit. Yeah, that was it. That was a good episode of Lost. I mean, like, that was a nice transitionary episode.
Well, the next episode we're doing is called What Kate Did. So I'm assuming
How many
it's
in
a Kate
between?
episode. I think it's the next one. I think there's only one that we're skipping. I think it's not for a little while, but the next episode is the next episode. Like,
okay, cool.
Anna's just in it now. Like, you know, she's
That's what
there.
I thought, right?
Yeah,
like,
so.
it's like just now at this point we do like just every episode one. That's what I was saying.
I think there's only one that we skip, and I'll let you know when that is. It's not yet though, but the next episode.
No, I've been
paying
attention.
Yep.
I got the scheduling, so I'm doing good.
Well, it's not even all on that schedule. Like, I have the master schedule, which I keep having to as we keep adding new things in and whatever, keep juggling around. But yes, but the next one is just What Kate Did. So Kate episode
9.
Yep. Well, the Fast and Furious minute 82, a minute I called go time.
Okay, go time! We're all good, man. I got nothing on the scanners. Keep going. Don't get back in!
So in this minute, the heist begins. Vince puts on his helmet and stands up through the sunroof. He shoots the first harpoon through the truck's passenger side windshield, shoots the second harpoon, which lodges in the truck's passenger seat.
Yep.
In his rearview mirror, Dom sees the truck driver has a shotgun. Dom pleads for Vince to get back in. Vince doesn't hear him. Vince jumps onto the truck as the truck driver unloads his first shotgun blast. So I was saying to you that the things that I normally do, there's not a ton of dialogue, there's no new clothing, there's no new music, there's no music at all. So a lot of what we're going to pick up on this minute is all you. So Joe, hit us with what you got. What'd you find this minute?
I really wanted to find something. I'm going to tell you what I didn't find and what I was disappointed by. I want to see what jeans Vince was wearing, but he has a huge, stupid 90s belt, 2000s belt on that covers up the back
with
of the
studs.
jeans.
Yeah, yep. Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't find that. I tried to get what helmet he was wearing. You know, he puts it on, even pausing 50 different directions. Hopefully, maybe I get the back logo at some point next minute. But I did get, you know, the truck license plate, the three cars, their license plates.
Are these license plates that we've seen before, or are these new plates?
These are new plates. That was something I searched in the document for, too. We're led to believe that they burnt the plates or the cars or anything from the last heist, right? Mm-hmm. Which is also, we've argued about that, but, like, Hector says they come in and Hector comes in and buys new stuff for 3 Honda Civics, right?
Yep.
And whether or not that's for Dom, we don't know, so he could have recycled the engines. That could have been something separate for Hector, but we're led to believe that they're new cars, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And the thing that I was trying to watch this time that I want to get really down is who's in which car license plate wise.
Yep.
Because we see them, they show up there in a line. Dom kind of like pulls to the left of the truck around like the driver's side, pulls ahead to become the front of the truck, and you have Letty slide over behind the driver's side, but in the back left of the back, it depends on which way you're looking at, the back driver's side of the truck, and then Leon, who was listening for cops on the radio, becomes the back passenger side of the truck. You remember when we found the continuity error in the license plates in the first truck heist?
Yes, I think so.
I mentioned that one of the cars just switches.
Oh,
right?
yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was trying to see if they do that here, but they don't so far. So as far as I can see so far, it seems like they're keeping, you know, this is the order, this is who's in which car. I think that Letty's back driver's side, it kind of makes sense. I'm going to have to check the next minute. And I think that Leon's back passenger side, but I'll clear that all up and figure it out.
Well, we got nothing but time and the next minute. I mean, at some point, we're going to find out. You might have to go back a couple minutes and be like, okay, so like, it's like the 3-card Monty or like the ball under the cup. It's like, okay, you got to follow the one. Where's Letty?
And I mean, obviously they don't show you them like through the car besides Dom and Vince. Like that's like the one that's like distinguished, right? Like you know that one's them because he climbs out of the roof.
Yep.
So the other ones, they like show you like Leon, and then they'll show you 2 cars ahead of him after they show you his face in the car, which leads you to believe that this is what he's seeing. He would be the trail, and he's listening for the scanners and stuff. So.
Yep. For the trivia question for this, I think it's a little tricky when it's such a heavily action minute. There's not a lot of dialogue we can quiz on. It's not like, oh, they're outside thermal or whatever, right?
I have a good question.
What's your question? Because I have 2 that I'm okay on.
Let me see what yours is.
So my questions are: what does Dom say to the team? Like basically the kickoff. What does Dom say to the team to let them know the heist is beginning? It's go time. So we could have some things similar to that.
That's fair. Yeah, that's okay. It's not great. It's not bad.
What hood ornament is on the truck that the team hijacks? It looks like it's some kind of winged animal. It's an eagle. I thought it was an eagle. Is it definitively is that the Peterbilt hood ornament, or is that just his hood?
I'm unsure.
Because I had eagle and I was like, I don't want to be super specific, so I just called it a bird.
The other question that I was going to ask is how many harpoons does Vince shoot at the truck?
Okay. Because I even like last minute I was like, oh, he's got 2 harpoons. He's like, yeah. You said like, yeah, he has to have 2 harpoons. So it is 2. So that could be
because he rips out the window of the first one, shoots the second one into the thing. So that was my thought of question. I like what's the hood ornament, but is every Peterbilt have let's look that up.
I think just calling it a bird would be okay, because we could say like it's a bird, it's a car, it's the Peterbilt logo. It
seems like everybody kind of has different ones. There's like swans, there's ducks.
Hasn't Nick sent in his hood ornament? Like, doesn't he have like Dom's charger or something? Like, it's like I think it's just a sign of like customization. Yeah, it's like this is me in the hood ornament kind of.
Yeah.
We have bird. What else could we do?
I just searched Peterbilt hood ornament, so I'm looking up other things. Bull horns.
Okay. Let's
see what else we got here. A bulldog.
Okay. Like you're talking about like actually like horns of a bull, right?
Yes, like a rack of a bull's horns. Yeah, you know what I mean? Just like cowboy Texas type stuff.
Yep.
And the last, how about Mercury? Like Mercury running, right?
Oh,
Is it Mercury?
I know what you're talking about. I think maybe just we could just say like a man running.
I think it's like more specifically Mercury.
But I mean, I think if we just start Mercury, like my brain first went to the element, which doesn't make any sense, then to the planet, which also doesn't make any sense. But I was just like trying to run through. You could say like a running man or a man or because my brain was like I don't know what actually Mercury. When you said Mercury running, I got there eventually. But even Mercury running, I'm still thinking like in a thermometer, sort of.
A jet, like a plane.
Let's get rid of. Do you want to keep bulldog or bullhorns? Because I think
Both?
2 bulls. Or actually, okay, so that just makes it like it's probably one of the bulls. But yeah, okay, bird.
Yes, right?
So what hood ornament is on the truck that the team hijacks? Bird, yeah, the right answer. Bulldog, bull horns, or a plane?
That's cool. I like
Airplane?
that.
Airplane. Call it an airplane.
Put jet in parentheses.
What hood ornament is on the truck that the team hijacks? Airplane, bird, bulldog, bull horns. Cool.
That's cool. That's a fair question. I like that.
92 questions now for 82 minutes. We are marching ever on toward the end of this movie, but we have a lot more to go. So stay
Yeah, I'm
tuned.
excited.
Check out the document, the minute document, and the Fast and Furious quiz at toofast2forever.com. It's in the pinned post. Duke, if you have not checked that out yet, do that thing. But Joe, let's take a break and let us come back. Let's hit the sand. Let's hit the beach. Let's hit the surf in Hawaii to talk about Blue Crush.
Hang loose a little. Welcome back to Too Fast, Too Forever. This is episode number 120, Blue Crush. This episode is brought to you by Memories Beach Bar. The restaurant is named Memories in tribute to all of Ching's friends that died in the tsunami, and with the support of his friends and family, he started to develop the project, and he would like to thank all of his guests and friends for making it a grand success. Thank you, Memories Beach Bar.
Thank you, and welcome back to the show, to Blue Crush. So shout out to, once again, Brian Rodriguez of High School Slumber Party for picking this as one of his 2 movies this lap, because he joined, I think, toward the end of last lap, and so we gave him 2 this lap, so we picked this one. He's got another one coming up. But we are here to talk about Blue Crush. Joe, Letty. So, okay.
What?
For our purposes, I don't know that this is a great movie. I enjoyed this movie, but I think that I wish there was more Letty. Okay, watching it from the perspective, maybe a more accurate way, watching it from the perspective that I'm watching it from, I feel like it's more clear than ever that this movie is about the wrong person or about the wrong story.
You wanted it to be about Letty.
Well, I want it to be about Letty, or I want it to be about Kate Bosworth not falling in love with a bland, quote-unquote, pro-QB, right? Because what this movie is about is that Kate Bosworth is this, like, up-and-coming surfing superstar who's been tapped to compete in this very exclusive high-end or whatever surf competition, right?
Yeah, it's like, one of the biggest surf competitions of the year, but she's a local, and like, they often do stuff like this. Like, she's like the wild card entry because she's like one of the best locals, so like she's not on the pro circuit, but she's like allowed to compete.
Like, toward the end of the movie, or somewhere in the middle of the movie, whatever, Michelle Rodriguez is like, I wasn't invited to, like, I can't do this. Like, I wish I could, I can't, I was not invited. Like, this is for you.
Exactly, yeah.
And so the movie is about Kate Bosworth. There's 3 main women. There's Kate Bosworth and Michelle Rodriguez, and their third friend, who I don't know her name. I'm so sorry.
Which one? The not the sister. The
no,
older
like
one.
the other one. They're all like maids at this hotel, and while they're cleaning a room, they have this entire football team, or at least a quarterback and seemingly his offensive line, staying at the hotel. Kate Bosworth falls in love with the quarterback, kind of a fish out of water situation. In the end, realizes no, surfing means more to me than him, even though in the end she kind of gets both. And that's sort of the movie. Letty is Michelle Rodriguez is her trainer, the one who sort of has the jet ski to pull her along.
Trainer. Yeah.
Unofficial trainer, yeah, but friend, trainer, like she's the one who kind of helps make sure that, she's ready for the competition. There's conflict here because basically all of her friends feel like she's throwing her life away, kind of, to like live this life of luxury with this quarterback who, whatever, might go back to the mainland. You know what I mean? So it's just...
He's going back to, Idaho or something, right?
Where all the pro QBs are from, Idaho. my letterbox review for this is that, even with an offensive line this charming, there's no way this guy would not get annihilated. Like, he does not look like he has a pro QB body. Like, he looks like a very kind of frail,
I would
sort of high school quarterback.
Because he has the same frame as Eli Manning.
But Eli Manning somehow has, like, the genetic DNA to just, like, never actually get hurt.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe not. I guess because, like, Jared Goff is also, I don't know, maybe. I'm looking at him, I'm like, he doesn't look like a pro QB. He just looks like a high school movie.
What does a pro...
Shut up, Brian.
You're just shocked now because you've, like, seen, like, Lamar and Patrick Mahomes
No. I just think that he looks like what a high school movie quarterback looks like. I don't think he has the body. I just feel like he's too frail, sort of. I don't know.
Even, like, no, I've seen, like, a bunch of these guys, like Baker, his shirt off when he's, like in the off season. Like, he's just, like, quarterbacks, like, don't need to be super ripped, right?
Okay.
Like,
well, then maybe just his overall performance or whatever. Matthew Davis, not a criticism of his acting, but just, I did not get quarterback from him.
Yes.
Maybe that. Maybe overall package, not a quarterback.
That's fair. I think body build and type is fine. He's not big enough. I think he would need to be a little bit bigger. His general, like, demeanor is not, like, Sergeant. You know what I mean?
Because, like, he's supposed to be famous enough and well-known enough, and this is not a podcast about him, but he's supposed to be famous enough and well-known enough that, like, everyone knows who he is, right? It just feels like he doesn't have that clout, and maybe that's just... they want to focus on, I don't know, but it just feels like, oh my god, can you believe he's at the hotel, sort of, to an extent, right? And then, I don't know. Yeah.
Because they're ostensibly at the Pro Bowl, right? So he should be, like, the best quarterback in the NFL, or, like, one of them.
Yeah. So this movie, Blue Crush, was previously covered by Wistful Thinking. They did a Reef month, I think, or maybe just boating or something.
It was boats.
But they covered this on there. They definitely did a boat cast for a while. So this movie came out in 2002. It was the summer after the first Fast and Furious came out, so this is very circa the Fast and Furious era Letty. It's based on a magazine article by Susan Orlean. Do you know that name or no?
No.
So she is a recent Twitter darling because she got drunk and live tweeted her night a couple weeks ago, and it went very viral because I think she's just an author who just got drunk and, like, went to a party and just had this, not a wild night, but just it was this unfolding narrative, and Twitter was all abuzz about her.
Shame on her for going to a party right now.
I don't know if it felt like, it wasn't. I don't remember the details because also I was just like, this is charming, and then I tuned out. But more importantly to me, and possibly to you, but more so to the network and as a whole, she wrote a book called The Orchid Thief. And The Orchid Thief was tasked to Charlie Kaufman to adapt. And he had such a difficult time adapting it that he wound up writing the movie adaptation, wherein a character named Charlie Kaufman tries to adapt the novel The Orchid Thief. And his brother, who's not a real person, Donald Kaufman, also played by Nicolas Cage, who plays both Kaufman brothers, writes a cheesy, whatever kind of dumb thriller called The Three, I think, gets, like, critical acclaim. And so she wrote the book that was going to become a movie, but wound up becoming the book in the movie about adapting. So it's just like this whole... But one of Nicolas Cage's absolute best movies and performances, especially because there's two of them, adaptation, she wrote that. But she wrote this magazine article called The Maui Surfer Girls, or sometimes Surf Girls of Maui. But the reason I bring all this up, aside from the fact that there's the Cage connection there, is because The Fast and the Furious was also based on a magazine article.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
so that's
Racer
how kind
X,
of obscure, right? Yeah, Racer X. So it's kind of a weird, not obscure, but sort of a strange Fast connection.
It is a strange Fast connection. I like that one.
The guy who directed this is John Stockwell. He also there's two movies of note for us. Number one, the more direct one, is he directed Into the Blue, which we covered a couple laps ago. Or last lap? When did we do? 2 laps ago. The Brian O'Connor lap.
Another
Paul
surf
Walker,
movie. So
yes.
He's like the surf director.
Mm-hmm. So the Paul Walker Jessica Alba movie. And he also directed a movie similarly named to Into the Blue called In the Blood, which I've mentioned a couple times because it's the bad Gina Carano movie that I've seen. So I was like, because it keeps talking about how great she is in Haywire. She's also in this other movie that I saw that I'm not really a fan of. It's not, her fault. Who knows what the issue is there. But this guy, I was like, oh, Into the Blue. Oh, also this other movie that we're probably not going to cover unless we do a Gina Carano lap. But I was just like, oh, this guy kind of has, like, his fingers in a lot of Fast and Furious adjacent pies.
Yeah, that's really cool. I didn't know that. Good tidbits. I'm happy.
One more tiny little thing that I want to hear your Fast connections is that Kate Bosworth's character is named Anne-Marie Chadwick.
Yes.
Michelle Rodriguez plays a character named Eden, no last name. But the last name Chadwick is a reference to Elvis's character in Blue Hawaii. And so Mike and I have the Elvis podcast that's kind of on hiatus now because I really want to do those in person, and we can't do those really in person, but there's an Elvis connection there too. So there's a lot of behind-the-scenes sort of machinations of ways that this ties into our network as a whole. But Joe, you said there was one, I think one in particular that you're like, oh my god, I have the best fast action or letting action. So hit us with the big one. What do you got?
The big one first. You want it?
Actually, before we get there, did you like this movie? Let's talk about that. Did you like this movie?
I did. I actually enjoyed it way more than I thought that I would. I don't know if it was the time that I was watching it or something. I'm not going to choose a 90s girl surfing movie as something that I'm like, oh yes, I can't wait to see that. But Rachel had seen it, and as I started watching it, it was a little bit like a female-driven Point Break in some ways.
Sure. The surfing element, yeah. I don't know that's the
heist, surfing element, the like joining a different family, teaching
Mm-hmm.
someone how to surf. You know what I mean? Like you're abandoning your friends, but you're also part of them. Those kind of elements. Like I get it. It's not a heist movie. It's not Keanu, and it's not like, you know, Undercover Cops or whatever. But in that same sense, with like the surfing and like the, you know, finding a new clan and fighting the locals and stuff like that, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Like the surf party was very reminiscent of Point Break to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, I could just see Patrick Swayze just showing up here. This might have been his old house. Who knows?
That party kind of felt like... It felt adjacent to Fast and Furious parties, but also felt more... like, it felt somehow, I think, both more movie party, but also more real party than the Fast and Furious. Like, the Fast and Furious exists in, like, this kind of, like, hey, this is, like, what a party resembles, which works for the movie. This feels both, like, more real and more fake, and I was like, oh, okay.
In a weird way, yeah. I think it feels more real to me on first glance, because it's like so packed and
there's a
like
ton of people there. Yeah,
and you're like, okay, that makes sense, you know, like they're the surfer crew, everybody comes to party there, cool, the house is kind of shitty. Whereas like when you see like the party at the Toretto's house, it's like a bunch of people pretending like they're at a party, right? And they're like all up against a wall to like make the shot nice.
Yeah.
So you're like okay, like nobody moves to this party, everybody just stands like directly back against a wall facing like down.
The only sound you hear is Vince playing his guitar. Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody's like smoking or breaking anything. It's just like, yeah,
this party felt dirty, right? Like it felt smoky,
grimy,
and hazy and foggy, right? Yeah,
I agree.
I like this movie overall. I don't know that I'm going to watch it again, but I enjoyed it. I think that the movie that I wanted to see is not the movie that we wound up getting. Like, I didn't really care about the fish out of water romance, sort of Little Mermaid-ish, that she, you know, falls in love with a man that she shouldn't have, maybe, or whatever. And I wish that they had explained more of what the surfing scores meant, because they're just like, oh,
I agree.
That's a 4.1. It's like, well, I get that that's not good, but like, what are we looking for?
Is it out of 5? Is it out of 10? I don't know. And then somebody gets like a bunch of 9s or like 10s, and you're like, oh shit, I didn't even know it was out of 10. If you'd have just made it like 5.2, then that would have been clear.
Yep. Clearly, so at the end, she has to get over her, because all movie long, the character's having, like, PTSD.
Because she'd gotten injured in a surfing accident there before, the same place that Pipe Masters is going to be at.
And so I think she basically makes, like, the semifinals, or she advances once, and then, like, she's not in the finals, but she's approaching the finals.
No, she just makes it past the first round. She's in the second round.
But she advances once, and then she, like, kind of just has stage fright and just sits out there. And her opponent just like, you just gonna sit out here? Like, come on, ghost girl, basically.
This was probably like the coolest moment of the movie, is to see her competitor be like, I know you're better than that. Like, you're just nervous. Like, she's like, I already know that I crushed this girl. Just decimated her, right? Like, there's no way.
It seems like it's also like a volume thing, right? It's like, okay, we're going to take your 10... I don't even know what the terminology is.
I don't know how to... I don't know. Heats, waves...
Your 10 surfs?
Runs.
Maybe?
I would say runs, right?
It's like you like catch 10 waves and then your cumulative score. And so she's like, I already got 10. Like, I'm done, right? So, like, you're not going to do 10. There's timed or whatever. So, like...
I don't think it was 10. I think she got, like, 3.
I saw a sheet with way more than 3. I don't know how many... Again, the movie does not care about the
No, it was just clips of her riding
competition.
the same wave forever because she was doing good.
Oh, then maybe you're getting multiple scores on...
Like a cutback, and then, it's like...
Kate Bosworth does one run, one surf, whatever, one heat, and even the announcer's like, you know, that's not going to be enough. It's just like so on the nose, like, it's not going to be enough to get her to move forward, but, you know, she's got to feel glad that she went out there and did that. And it's like, I get that, like, that's what we're watching. You don't need to be that on the nose about it. It's just, come on, man. Like, we get that this is a personal victory.
Yeah, you should be like, oh, that shouldn't be enough to pull her ahead, but, like, great run, you know, like... He's like, oh, it looks like she's going to lose anyways, but there she goes.
Right. So there's this screenwriting book called Save the Cat, which Tobin taught us in a screenwriting class. There's all these different beats, yeah, and there's one, like, the whole thing of this is that it's very regimented, that, like, you're supposed to, like, write a screenplay, like, you can adapt it or whatever, but, like, basically every good screenplay is like this, right? In the first 10 pages somewhere, there's, like, the theme stated. So you're supposed to basically say what the point of your movie is, like, what the lessons are going to be learned. Generally speaking, it's not a character saying that. Like, it just, you see it somewhere, you hear it, you overhear it, whatever. It's not, like, very overt. We're just like, oh, okay, cool,
yeah,
cool,
you can't be like, today we're gonna learn about surfing.
But, like, this is not at the beginning, but it just feels like an all movie long she's been struggling, pulled between two different worlds, and it looks like she finally did this one. And while it's not, it's just like, yeah, God, we get it. We just spent an hour 40. We know what we're looking at.
But this movie's geared towards teen girls, right? Isn't that the audience of this movie? Not saying that, like, they should dumb it down for them, just that, like, oftentimes movies geared towards teens or preteens are kind of written in this way, that they're, like, so on the nose, and you're like, come on, man, give them more credit. Like,
yeah, I think that's what we say a lot on about these movies, right? It's just like, treat your audiences a little bit more respect. But anyway, yeah, I liked it overall. I didn't love it. I think just it's maybe just not for me, which is fine.
It's definitely not for me. Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. It was a breezy watch. But okay, please, Fast Action. I sort of I distracted you, detracted you, took you away.
The biggest Fast Action, something that I never thought I would say on this podcast. This is now the second movie this lap that Michelle Rodriguez says the word condom.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I never, ever thought that was something we would find a recurring theme in her movies, and it's kind of not, but she's used that word twice. A word that I don't hear spoken in movies too often.
But this is only the first time where it's actually about a literal condom.
Yes.
As opposed to just a dress that looks like one. Also, by the way, Elizabeth Debicki, who wore the proverbial condom in that movie, got cast as Princess Diana in the final 2 seasons of The Crown. So, shout out to the tallest woman I've ever seen, according to a Letterboxd review that we found. Princess Diana. So that's pretty cool. I didn't know Princess Diana was that tall, but, like, good on you. She's a great actor. So there we go.
That is really cool.
Condom-nection. That's a weird thing.
It was so strange. When I heard her say it, I was like, did Letty just say condom again?
Also, like, this is a stretch. A nickname for a condom is a rubber, burning rubber, cars. It's all right there.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. No.
Totally. Yes, exactly. I want to talk about, before we get into further Fast Actions, I want to talk about a weird, not a weird thing, but a sort of maybe an unfortunate thing, or something that we're maybe going to have to address or keep an eye out for. That, as we've talked to Nico and Kevo about Michelle Rodriguez and her characters, and Nico specifically in a Fast and Furious 4 episode talking about how, like, she's typically coded male, and, like, it's a specific kind of thing, and it's not necessarily good or bad, it's just the way that she is. What bothered me in this movie is that, like, every time there'd be, like, 3 guys and 3 ladies, like 3 men, 3 women on screen, right? She's always in board shorts the entire movie. Like, Kate Bosworth and the other friend are in bikinis. Like, she's got a bikini top on, but she's, like, in the board shorts. Like, she's
in a tank top.
Guys will roll up and they'll be like, "Hey, ladies, how you are?" And then, like, they'll just grab her and, like, put her in a headlock or, like, roughhouse with her, like, every single time, like 3 or 4 times in the movie. And I'm like, at some point, you're feeding into the stereotype. Like, I get that she's, like, kind of one of the guys, but it's like, but it's just like, you don't have to do that. You showing her physically sanding down a surfboard in the beginning of the movie is kind of all we need to know that, like, she's tough and she can, like, hang and whatever. We don't need to see her, like, physically grappling with the offensive linemen or the local surfers or whatever. Just, like, you're really doing this again. Like, it's a lot. And I feel like we're going to see this a lot. We've seen it in Lost, we've seen it in the Fast and Furious, and it happens over and over again. It's weird. Like, I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't think it's good, but, like,
it's almost typecasting.
On the flip side of the coin, though, there is something that we don't normally see, that we, even when we talked about Widows, I think we thought back to the Fast and Furious movies, but, like, seeing Michelle Rodriguez in the maid's outfit, which is like a dress, is a different kind of look, and, like, there's the femininity there.
It's like peasantry too. I think it's kind of I'm glad that they had the 2 white girls with her, because if we had the only Hispanic woman playing a hotel maid in this film, I would have felt very uncomfortable that that's what they cast her as. If she wouldn't have had her friends, like, if it's not like, oh, this is their... I get that they're in Hawaii, I get that it's like a tourism spot, and they're young, they need jobs. If she wouldn't have had her friends with her, that they all signed up to be hotel maids, I would have been like, oh, God. Like, if they would have given, like, these 2 girls, like, a job at the smoothie shop, and Michelle Rodriguez would have been the only... I would have been like,
It's teetering on things that are like not objectively bad, but could be like with a little bit of a twist. But I guess yeah, just I don't know that this movie is supposed to be overanalyzed, right?
No, it's not. Not like the way we will. But the hotel thing, they actually do need them at the hotel because the hotel is the main structure of the plot, right?
Yeah. Yep.
It has to be, they have to be at the hotel to meet the football player, to like have the relationship with the hotel, to her to come back
And
the
they need to be
hotel.
have and have nots, so they can't be like also just staying at the hotel.
Exactly, because it's supposed to be a luxurious hotel. He has a great room at this luxurious hotel. It's like where the Pro Bowl guys are staying. So yes, they couldn't have been like girls that just happened to stumble onto this hotel. They have to have been like workers and peasants there. Yeah.
What did you think of them trying on that woman's clothes? Like, I thought it was like a kind of a fun scene, but I'm also like, do people do this?
I thought about it and I was like, this is fun and doesn't bother me. Like, nobody would do at this point. Like, I'm an old man, right? So like, what do I got? Basketball shorts and jeans that probably don't fit somebody that's cool. I was laughing about it, well, mainly because she had them strewn everywhere. It's not like they like really went through her closet. They were all on the floor, like thrown in piles. You would have to imagine these are like dirty clothes, right?
Which makes it almost weirder in a way.
Yeah, but they're dresses and stuff. It's not like they like tried on her underwear. Like, and they had bikinis on underneath their work clothes. So they were kind of in their underwear. I thought it was cute and funny, and like I can imagine that if I was working with my friends and we were all hotel cleaners, that we'd be like, "Oh shit, look at what this guy got in this drawer." You know what I mean? Like, it's just something you would do, and like that was like the teen girl version of that is like, "Oh look, here's a dress we can't afford. Let's try it on because she's not gonna never know." And it was harmless. They didn't like break anything. You know, they put it all back. Whatever. Like she didn't stretch it out. Those girls were tiny, even compared to the woman that's dresses was. You know?
Yeah. One thing I do want to, similarly, but like in a totally different thing, I've always thought about like how, again, just coming from a place where I'm not thinking about the broader picture, but I'm like, not that I would ever really want to be like in housekeeping or whatever, but I'm like, it can't be that big because like, I think about it from my perspective, right? Like I keep my room pretty clean and I basically just like live out of the suitcase and whatever. And it's the same thing like with dentistry, where just like, oh, my mouth is like, sometimes I have cavities, but it's not bad. And then you think about like the room they walk into and like just vomit on the floor and vomit all over the bathroom and just like shit everywhere and condoms on the ground. It's just like, oh, right, no, other people are animals. And other people, like in terms of dentistry, like that's my connection where it's just like, oh no, other people have like trash mouths.
Yeah.
And I think about things from my perspective, like, oh, like I keep things pretty clean. Like it's never really like I feel guilt. Like I kind of like do the room up a little bit to like, oh,
same.
like,
Rachel and I throw all of our trash away.
Then I see this, I'm just like, oh right, no, people are monsters.
Yep, and he's like, I'm on vacation. And you're like, oh god, yeah, I know, you're such an asshole. Like at that point I would just shut the door and be like, I didn't clean this room. Like I ain't going in, like, whoops, we never got to yours. Or put like the like do not disturb sign on the outside. That's a fucking biohazard.
Yeah.
Like, this is gross.
It's real gross.
And I'm sure that that's not even like the beginning of the grossness that you see.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah, because when they look in the bathroom, I was like expecting like worse, but it just like kind of like vomit around the toilet. I was like, okay, that's not as bad as like what I was expecting to see, but yeah.
I'm sure that it's gotten really. I'm sure any person that has worked in hotel, part of the cleaning staff at a hotel, has so many horrifying stories for us. At any hotel. Nice ones, shitty ones, doesn't matter.
What other fascinations did you find?
One, this is kind of a fascination, but kind of not, because there wasn't many, like, overt fascinations in this. One that I liked was she's part of the NSSA, and I was like, is this like the Naira circuit for surfers?
Ooh, okay.
Like Hector's in the Naira circuit, this girl's in the NSSA, because she says like Nisa or something too, I think, at one point.
Okay.
Letty being a Superman fan, I don't feel like we've seen that in Fast and the Furious, but if she dropped some like comic book knowledge after, now, we've been talking to Nico and Kevo, if she just dropped some like, remember that episode of like Batman into Fast and the Furious, you'd be like, yep, that makes sense. I definitely can imagine she was watching a lot of Superman cartoons, right?
Also of particular note to all of that is that Kate Bosworth, the lead in this movie, played Lois Lane in Superman Returns in 2006. So there's a Superman connection in the movie.
That's very cool. Rachel was saying that this girl is really famous and like was like all over the place for a while, and I only recognize her as like the girl next door type situation, but I couldn't have placed her in another movie.
Well, she was in another movie that we talked about, not on this podcast, but on another podcast. She was in...
That we talked about, me and you?
Yeah, she's one of the female leads kind of in Remember the Titans. I don't remember what role she plays. 2 years before this, right? So she's about this age, so probably...
Oh, dude, you know who she is? She's like she's the racist daughter. She's the blonde, I bet.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Remember when he goes back and he's like, and she's like, oh, I can't shake his hand or something?
Like, I've seen her in a bunch of things. She's in a Statham movie called Homefront, which also has James Franco, also has Winona Ryder.
Okay.
She's in The Rules of Attraction. She's in that Josh Hartnett movie 21, but I feel like she's just kind of like TV famous.
Yeah.
Like, she's got like CW vibes, right? And maybe that's just because
she's
maybe
very
I'm
cute.
equating it to Superman. Like, she could be on like 200 episodes of like Supernatural or something, and I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I 100% agree with you. You just nailed it. Yep. You could have told me she was like Buffy's best friend. And I would have been like, okay, yep.
She's on that, actually, related sort of, I've not seen it yet, but there was that Netflix series that came out last year called The Island, a Lost-ish Island. She was on that, apparently. But no, it looks like she just hasn't done a ton. Like, she's been in 45 things, and she's still acting today, but best known for Superman Returns in 21 and Win a Date with Tad Hamilton and then this movie, so... So here's a couple other Fast Action. I want to point out, I don't remember any particular songs from the movie, but there was a great soundtrack, I felt, especially early on. It just kind of goes from really good song to really good song. Related to that, early on when they're all in the car driving, coupled with a good soundtrack, it got like a real Death Proof vibe, where it's like, oh, okay, like...
Bunch of girls singing
four
along with the
badass
radio.
ladies, singing and just driving around town, right? So...
I get that. That's very fair.
Oh, so outside the convenience store at one point, somebody says, dogs gotta eat. Somebody else says, so do I. I'm hungry. I was like, ooh, pockets ain't empty, cuz? Okay.
Hungry. I have a question for you. These girls all work at the hotel. We talked about the condom scene. She blocks it out, yells at the offensive lineman on the beach in front of all the other hotel guests. He seems to be non-offended by it. Her boss finds out, gets really angry at her, and it's like, you're fired. The other two girls, Michelle Rodriguez and the other girl, are like, that's it, well then we quit too. So they quit, right? All of them are done with the hotel, but they need to still pay their bills. And the football player still likes her, and so they're like chasing him down in the car because he said like, oh, he sees him surfing, he sees our main character surfing, and he's like, you know, how much for surf lessons? And she's like, whatever, leave me alone, like, go talk to some guy, he'll teach you how to like foam boards and something else, right? And so they chase him down, you know, they're like, how much is it for surf lessons? Like, how much would you pay? Or he's like, how much is it? And they're like $20 an hour. Well, like, how about like $150? That's what the hotel charges. And they're so shocked by this. And I'm like, these women were working at that hotel. How did they not know what the prices for surf lessons were at their own hotel?
I mean, like, you work at a major institution. Do you know what, like, the undergraduate rate is? Do you know, like, what librarians get paid?
Not that, but it's
like,
a
I think
thing,
it's like,
dude.
I don't know if it's that egregious, but I think it's in that thing where just like...
It would be like me not knowing how much a coffee cost at the cafeteria.
Because I think it may be closer to that, but I think it's different because they're not getting surf lessons from the hotel. They're already surfers. Like, they're not
exactly. But I'm saying they set up the rooms, like, they open the book of fucking conveniences in the rooms, right? Like, they have access to this. They've had to have seen it. They walk past the front desk. I'm sure that there's, like, a poster, like, on sale this week, like, $125 for surf lessons. It has to have been seen somewhere.
That does feel a little bit unrealistic, and it's also, like, to what end? Like... oh, can you believe this windfall? But it's almost like it needs to be, they need to luck into it. Like, I'm just trying to think of, like, what this actually accomplishes.
Yeah, because they only get 1 week of this, right? I mean, like, I guess that they could become, like, pro surf, like, surf teachers. Like,
I'm just
that
thinking,
would make
like, you know,
sense.
if they knew how much they should get paid, the scene could play it almost exactly the same way. Like, you know, the hotel charges $150, but we'll just charge you like $80 or whatever. And he's like, no, I'm going to pay you with the hotel. Like, it's just like the same thing. Like, they're still going to get the win. You know, I don't know.
That's
It
what
almost
I'm
feels
saying.
like they're so out of it that they don't even realize this as an opportunity to make money at all, right? Like, they could be hustling or whatever.
And you tell me that none of their friends, like, Letty, we see her in the beginning, she works at a surf shop, or at least, like, is close, like, she can sand her own boards. They lead us to believe that she's making her own surfboards. She doesn't know the going rate for surf lessons there.
So I have an easier time than you believing it, but I also am firmly with you that, like, it does not feel like it makes sense. Like, I think that I can envision a world in which they don't know, but at the same time, it's like, they probably should know.
That would be like them being like, surfboards, like, how much do those cost? And you're like, bro, you're right there. Like,
Surfboards?
you know
What's
this.
that?
Exactly. Exactly. You'd be like, dude, come on, man. Like, you know this. Then none of their friends have ever given surf lessons for, like, money. Like, this will be, like, the key demographic of, like, you hustling on the side, right? Like,
It should be.
I just imagine, like, all of these dudes are, like, semi-pro skateboarders and stuff like that, like, that aren't sponsored and stuff. Like, don't you think they have, like a bunch of little kids? It'll be, like, somebody's mom is like, hey, I'll give you, like, $50 if you could teach them how to, like, ollie. And they'd be like, okay, cool. I could do that for an afternoon. And, like, you do that, and you're like, oh, yeah, this is what it costs. And, like, you've never, ever tried to do this, right?
Yeah.
Like, maybe, like, her sister's friends, like, one of their moms wasn't like, hey, I know that you're, like, a pro surfer or an almost pro surfer. Sorry, I was, like, really hung up on this whole, and you worked, it's not even, like, it was a different hotel. Like, even if it was a different hotel, I would get it, right? Because it's like, oh, they charge $300 at that hotel. They're like, wow, $300 at that hotel was only $150 at ours. But it's like, no, you worked in that hotel.
The hotel's not made to be, like, so big that they don't know what's going on, right? Like, it's just kind of like, oh, yeah, all right. Actually, speaking of that, to change the topic for a second, because I feel like this is a rabbit hole that we may never recover from if we go down too much further.
I'm sorry.
In that scene where they're negotiating, I was like, this is kind of like the stare and drive. Like, it's not, but it's adjacent to. Just, next to each other, risking...
Very much.
Kind of playing chicken. It's in that ballpark for sure.
It was a very too fast chase down the highway.
Yep.
With Brian and Roman and just like weaving in and out of cars and oncoming traffic kind of chicken situation.
I was wondering, is it weird to stay at a hotel that you work at? Because like when she's in the hotel room and then her friends come in to clean the hotel room, she's like, oh, let me help you. It's like, wait, what is... Like, it's almost like... A lot of teachers I know, like especially growing up, you don't normally see your teachers in the wild because they kind of usually don't work where they live or don't live where they work, right? Because it's like, I don't want to be running into my students all the time everywhere. Like, they'll just work 20 minutes away or whatever, so they're not wildly far away, but that they can, like, if they have the choice, right? So it's weird to me that she's like, oh yeah, I'm just like, this is just me now, and like, I'm calling room service. It's like, What?
This is the other thing I was saying. Like, there's many situations where she's at the hotel, and I'm like, you wouldn't know. Okay, she does use the, like, oh, I'll go up the back stairs and meet you there so nobody sees me. That one makes sense. But then it's like, if she called room service, she wouldn't be like, hey, George, it's me. I'm in 214. Can you send up this?
Yeah.
Like, you would know who the room service guy is. You would know who the cleaning staff is. You would know all of these people.
Maybe this hotel is just way bigger than we thought. Either number one, they're all way dumber than we think, or which is unfortunately, I don't want to think about that. Or number two, the hotel is gigantic. They don't know all the staff. They don't know that they even offer surf lessons. You know what I mean?
Maybe they're like new hires, right? Like they were only there for like a month, right? So like they haven't like established themselves.
It does kind of feel like it might just be movie fun, like fun and games. But it does not feel like they're necessarily great at their job. They're just like, they're still like having fun and like cleaning rooms together, as opposed to like, I know it's also for a movie, but every time you see it as a hotel, like there's always just like one person to a room, right? Like not
they're not you're sending 3 teen girls to clean one room together, like unless they're on like probationary period, right, where they like need to do all 3 because they're so slow, and they're like, you got like 2 weeks of this left and we're breaking you up.
In that moment though, in that when they come up and they're cleaning the room, I feel like it's maybe the most Letty moment where there's like a confrontation between her and Kate Bosworth. Somebody says, I think Letty might even say, some guy thinks you look hot in a bikini, you forget all about the contest. And then she's like, why are you so mad? And she's like, I'm not mad. And this is a quote, I'm not mad, I just happen to know you kick ass out there. You worked really hard to get where you are. And I'm like, that's kind of like the protective, the fieriness, passion, the smart, just like, why are you throwing yourself away?
Yeah, Letty's like the only one that really cares about her, the whole movie.
And what's interesting is that like there's the other dynamic where Kate Bosworth cares about her sister in a way that like when we talked to Andy Tudor, he was like, I kind of want to see more Dom, Mia, brother-sister sort of things. Like here we get that. Like there's weird pockets of caring about each other, but it's not fully always fleshed out.
Yes. And, like, the one friend is just, like, a third wheel. She's just, like, totally down with anybody doing anything they want. She, like, is not involved in any of the conflicts. She just is like, okay, if your sister wants to go party, she can go party.
They just need, like, a third person there, I feel like, right? Because it's not just Kate Bosworth and Letty. Yeah.
But it's like, it's such a hollow character. That's what I was getting at. This girl just is so so agreeable that she can't, like, she doesn't bring anything to the story, because she's not, like, on Letty's side sometimes. She's just on everyone's side all the time. She's just like, yep, how's the football player? He's hot. Like, do you want to go do the surf competition? That would be cool. You're a great surfer. And, like, everybody's like, no, there's tension here. And she's like, yep, don't know.
Yeah. So in the jet skiing scenes, Michelle Rodriguez did all of her own stunts, including towing Kate Bosworth's stunt double out to the biggest waves, which I thought was pretty cool. And then later, like this is toward the end where like, because there's a big chunk of this movie, like especially for our purposes, where like Letty doesn't have anything to do because like her character, Michelle Rodriguez's character, is just like Eden is just sort of thrown aside because it becomes Kate Bosworth's movie. It becomes a movie about this group of women into being a movie about this one woman pursuing this guy, right? And it's just like, oh, like I want to be over there where the people are. Again, Little Mermaid, who knows? But at one point she's playing Xbox with the Duke controller, the original huge controller.
Yes.
I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Not a PS2, so not exactly a direct, because remember in the original movie, Letty's lying on the floor playing PS2, playing a racing game. Here she's playing a jet skiing game.
No, I thought that it was Kelly Slater's Surfer.
Oh, that's what I mean. I guess it was surfing. Yeah.
And
yes.
I didn't think Letty was playing it. Letty was watching the TV outside.
Well, no, that's a different scene.
Okay.
So that's a scene where like Kate Bosworth's like, "What are you watching?" She's like, "It's you when you were younger surfing." It's like, how do you not know that it's you? You know, it just feels like that's another like.
It's weird.
If you're ever watching like home videos, be like, "Oh, I remember that," or like I know that's me or whatever. It's not like, who is that? Like, who's that wonderful young skier? It's like,
you're right, and she doesn't present it like, what are you watching? Like,
or like, not why are you watching that? But she's like confused at like what it is.
that's what I'm saying. But we were in Hawaii, and they have like full on surf channels, right? Because like it's a big thing there, and you can like put on like ESPN of surfing, right? I forget what it's called. So I could see her like coming in and being like, "Oh, like what is this? Is this like the new kids surfing, thing?" And she's like, "No, it's you." But she seems like genuinely confused at like what she is watching. It's very strange. I think just a bad line delivery, like when we like, press Paul Walker's lines in some things.
Yeah.
You're just like, why did you deliver it like that? Like it conveys so much confusion when you didn't mean that at all.
The only other note that I have about the movie, and I think this goes back to my original issue of the quarterback not really selling it as a quarterback, is she's just like, I wish I wrote down the exact quote, but just like, I remember that one game where I threw that perfect spiral right into his fingertips. It's like, you're describing a thing like in a way that like people who don't know about the thing describe it. It's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I threw that oblong ball through the air, it spiraled, it went right into his hands. The guy put his arms up, we scored points. It's like, well, like there's a different language to like the describing.
Yeah, he'd be like, guy ran a beautiful slant.
Yeah.
I had it dropped right into his
Two steps out of the break, I threw it. Yep.
Exactly.
But no, I threw that spiral fingertips. It's like, okay, like I think it's like that kind of thing. We're just like, like I if you were like high school quarterback, cool, got it. Like the local hot guy, like the the college, like maybe U of H or whatever, right? Like something like that, but not pro quarterback. We're just like, all right, like,
yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Any other thoughts about the movie? I have a couple little bits of trivia, but
I have one more question about this.
Okay.
When she first comes back with him, we discover, because Rachel and I were trying to figure out how, like, they've established it's $150 for swim lessons as opposed to $20 an hour. And now Rachel and I are confused because I'm all hung up about the pricing and whatever. And I'm like, is it $150 an hour? Is it $150 a day?
Well, so I think the thing is, and they don't explicitly say this, but I'm just like, okay, because 150 times 7 is 1,000. Like, he does the math weirdly in the movie. I don't know why he does it, but I think he's saying it's a 1-hour surf lesson every day this week.
But they're not out there for an hour. She was out there for like 10 hours.
Hey,
like,
man.
They took them out in the morning, and they stayed out until sunset, bro.
You pay the first hour. You pay for the first hour. The rest is on me.
I think that it was $150 for the day, right? Instead of $20 an hour, he pays you $150 for the day, which would be like a 3 or 4 hour lesson, right? And she stays longer. But then he comes back. He's like, okay, like I would like to get a surf lesson every day. That's what he says. And here's like $1,000 that should cover me. And like I gave myself a little bit of a discount, because I'm paying cash up front.
But like they're basically like, okay, so 7 times 150, you carry the 1. 7 times 5 is 5. You put 3.
Yeah, he
7
does.
times 1, 3, and it's just like I don't need like. Why is this so detailed but like weirdly vague? To your point, it's a weird.
He should have been like, here's $1,000. That's for the week minus the 50 for like me paying up front. That's all you need. But he does.
I'll buy you a dress. I'll take you out.
He hands that to her. She holds the cash, and they immediately start making out. And I was like, this is almost explicitly prostitution at this point. And I was just like, so like, oh man, like how did you have to do this girl so dirty? Like, you could have had him pay her. Like, he could have paid her in the car and been like, hey, there's your cash. I would like to do this again tomorrow, and if you'd like to come up and have a drink. She could still have the confrontation about her coming up to have a drink. She could have come up, had the drink, and then they could start making out, and it wouldn't have felt so fucking sleazy as it did with him handing her the cash and then them making out at the same time. I was like, come on, man. Like, why do you make the girl seem so cheap like this? Like, she didn't need to do it. It made me feel bad. I was like, this is just awful. Because, like, it's like the weird power dynamic of, like, him handing her the, like, he's a have. She's a have-not.
Yep.
She's in his room. He, like, kind of coaxes her up there. Although he's not, like, very pushy about it. He's just like, you know, you should come up. He seems to like her. But then he hands her the money and then starts making out with her. I'm like, dude, come on, man. Like, have you ever learned anything? I guess this is, like, the 2000s. So this is pretty bad. This looks bad, man. I wouldn't want to tell this story in court, is what I'm saying. Because this would be really bad. And so I just felt bad about that. That was, like, my last complaint about the movie. I was more hung up on the, like, the structure of the movie. And this whole fucking money situation was very strange to me. So, sorry that I got distracted from Letty.
Well, she's not in a lot. There's other things to worry about because, like, she just disappeared for, like, 45 minutes. She's probably only on screen for, like, 20 minutes, right? But
she's great when she's on the screen.
Yeah.
This would have been really cool as if it was her. You don't need this guy. The whole tension of, like, the football player guy is useless in this movie. They could have made it be, like, her ex-boyfriend surfer local guy, right?
I think she needs to be lured into... yeah, I guess it could be, like, just anything that's taking her away from surfing, but I feel like there's more glitz and glamour with...
I hate this thing that, like, you have to give the girl a man to distract her. Like, why couldn't she have just gotten, like, a better job, right?
Well, because,
like,
it's a shortcut. But yes, exactly, yeah.
Like,
but then also, because, like, if it's a better job, then it's like, Michelle Rodriguez's character looks like an asshole. She's like, why you gotta work so much? Why can't you be surfing? It's like, well, because I actually finally have a good job. Like, I think you need something you can kind of defensively be like, you can have both. I don't know. The only thing I wanted to say in terms of trivia is that originally, Jake's pick for this lap, he has since changed it, but his pick for this lap was 50 First Dates.
Very close.
Seaside Beach Shack that the girls live in is the same house used in 50 First Dates.
No way.
I mean, this is probably... I don't know how many... you were out in Hawaii. I'm sure that, like, when there's certain things or whatever, it's just like, oh, yeah, that's just available for shooting, right? So
it seems like that. I mean, I didn't campus the whole island. It seems like there's, like, a lot of places that just exist, and you're... Because they were driving at one point, and Rachel's like, oh, I think they're, you know, in the place where we were, right? It just, like, looks like that, just the terrain. I mean, granted, it could be anywhere, but there's, like, certain movie spots that are, like, everybody kind of shoots here, so...
Yeah, I think that's probably true of anywhere, right? Like Los Angeles or New York or Toronto or wherever. It just feels like when you have a smaller place like Hawaii, like less... Civilization is the wrong word, but like sort of like to make it look like in like a city or whatever, right? You know what I mean? Like there's probably even fewer and just like, oh yeah, of course, whatever. Yeah.
You know, it's beautiful from everywhere, but if you want like a shot that like has like the whole volcano like around it, there's like certain places that are like arced like that you're like, okay, like well, we're obviously going to go there. It's set up to shoot movies at. Like it has the scenery that we want to convey. Just go there. Right? It's just like an easy thing. And like, you know, some of it's like protected parks and like sacred land, you know what I mean? All these other things. So you're like, okay, we have like one place that we should go, so just go there. Why fight it to get the same shot somewhere else with all this extra work?
Exactly. All right, you want to watch a trailer?
I am down, yeah.
So it is the Blue Crush official trailer #1 Matthew Davis movie 2002, which is not really his movie, but Movie Clips Classic Trailers.
Who's Matthew Davis?
He's the main dude. He's the quarterback. I looked him up because I'm like, why would
So they try to attribute this to him?
Well, because, and I think the reason they do this is because he's been in 123 episodes of The Vampire Diaries, and I think there's a higher likelihood that someone who fits the target demographic for this movie will find him than they will find Kate Bosworth or Michelle Rodriguez.
Damn, that sucks.
Kind of, right? Like I get
sucks.
Like SEO, but yeah, it's not a Matthew Davis movie. It's a Kate Bosworth movie, right?
It is 100%. He's not anywhere near the poster. It's like
just
Kate Boswell, Letty, and like the sister or the other friend sometimes.
Other friend, yep.
And you're like, okay, cool, but like he's no.
Ready when you're ready?
I'm ready.
PG-13 for sexual content, teen partying, language, and a fight. Oof. And also that fight was kind of Point Breaky too, where they have like where Keanu scraps with like Flea and maybe another chili pepper. I don't remember, but
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
3, 2, 1, play.
Click play. Oh, by the way, waves are fucking scary, dude.
Well, just wait for my film club pick this week. The Endless Summer, which is a documentary about surfers. Oof.
Oh, I'm excited.
Hey, no worries. Just go out there and have fun.
No worries, just go out there and have fun.
One thing I am glad about is that they didn't like lean into Michelle Rodriguez as like the non-white person, be like, oh yeah, she's Hawaiian, like she's the spirit of the island. It's like at least they didn't do that.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
thank you. I agree. Yes.
I dated Juju. I guess I can do anything.
I dated you.
Feeling that separates you from the rest.
You were totally flirting with him. Shut up.
Why are they like training at the hotel with him too? That's also weird.
I don't know, man.
Don't touch her.
There's the
Oh,
fight,
yeah.
the aforementioned fight, PG-13.
I like when they show her riding the waves. It's always that one wave. Like they got like one. She rode one wave the whole time she was in Hawaii, and they were like, "Okay, we got to keep reusing this." It felt like The Room, you know?
So they actually went for Kate Bosworth's surfing scenes. They used a male stunt double who had a wig and shaved legs and everything, and then they just digitally put her on that. But yeah, like she went out, like she was on the surfboard and stuff, and she fell and like hit her head at one point, I think. But like the actress, but generally when you're seeing her, it's a dude that they photoshopped or After Effects a woman on, Kate Bosworth on. So I think this is making this movie like look a lot sexier than it is. Like actually,
Yeah.
not like metaphorically sexy, but just like, oh, you're gonna see some hot ladies.
Yeah, I agree.
Which I guess is how you get dudes to the theater, or like, yeah, I'll go see that with you.
This is a Friday night date movie for teenagers in high school.
And again, to how you described it the first time, like, oh yeah, they surf for a while. The one girl like falls in love with a guy, and like her friend is like whatever. Like it's a very easy plot to sum up, right? So
That's always my method, right? Like what was Blue Crush about? Like, oh, the girl met a quarterback guy, and they like made out, and
in the end, she doesn't
taught
win,
him-
but she gets close.
yeah, and you're like, and your mom's like, okay, cool, you watched enough of that movie. Oh, the other thing is like where they're shooting Pipe Masters. Rachel and I are pretty convinced that we were like the island's not super big, and we were stopping at like all of these spots where like the surfers go because I just like to see them out there, right?
Yeah.
Like I find it fun. I think that this was a spot that's like right next to like the Volcom house or something. A couple of the like big surf guys have big surf brands buy a house on the island, and then they like send their pros there, and you can like stay in this like party house essentially that's like right next to the beach where you would surf. Yeah, and I was like, oh, that's like the coolest thing ever, that like you would have, so like the guys like back in the day bought these houses, and they were like, this is like our surf house for when we come to Hawaii, and they like constantly have like pros that just rotate through there whenever they want to go practice. And I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense, because surfing, you kind of have to have a spot where you can go, right? So
Yeah. All right, Joe, the Letterbox game, for reference sake, Mad Max Fury Road has been seen by 620,000 people. Whew, 620. Blue Crush, 2002, directed by John Stockwell, starring Kate Bosworth, Matthew Davis, and Michelle Rodriguez, has been seen by how many people?
I'm going to go 1575.
1,500 or 15,000?
15,750, sorry. 15,750.
You're close-ish, but you're too high.
12,500.
Still go a little bit lower. Last guess.
11,300.
11,466. So I mean, not wildly popular, but decentish number.
I'd imagine that there was like a lot of, people like Rachel's age that had seen this when they were teens or a little bit younger, and then like rewatch it or rate it on Letterboxd, right? I don't think many like new young girls are gonna watch this movie. Maybe.
So I don't know what the gender breakdown is of the people that I follow on Letterboxd, but 100% of the people that have seen this movie of my friends on Letterboxd are women. So it's not a dude's movie, but we are. We watch it. But Joe, average rating of 2.7, which actually moused over. Average rating of 2.67. So you even get a better 2.67. Most common rating of 3, then a 2, then a 2.5. How many out of those 11,000 and change put this in their top 4? I will tell you, it's a number greater than 0.
That's like 4.
Higher.
25.
Much lower.
Yeah. 8.
9 people.
Okay.
That's not bad.
4 was a good starting point, I think.
Yeah. So out of these 9, only 2 of them have reviewed the movie. So I'm going to go to Kasali Pride on Letterboxd, who says, I mean, come on. This is one of the best movies ever made. 5 stars.
Wow.
So Kasali Pride, you're going to be able to get 1 or maybe 2. This person's number 1 favorite movie of all time is Blue Crush.
Okay.
Number 3 is an anime. Okay. This is the one that I think is going to be the hardest, and I don't know that you've ever even heard of this, but in the last, what year did this come out? 2 years ago, maybe? 4 years ago. Wow, okay. So 4 years ago, one of the, An anime that was so critically acclaimed that I even heard of it and saw it came out. Do you know any recent anime that came out that like kind of was so popular and so well respected and well regarded that like it broke through to mainstream culture?
An anime that was so big it broke through to mainstream culture. Is it a Studio Ghibli movie?
No, but it is a guy. It's directed by this guy Makoto Shinkai, who is like this respect. Like he had another movie that came out this year called Weathering with You, which I saw. But I don't know that you've ever heard of this. I'm being very like
No.
You
Yeah,
either
'cause
know
you don't
the
know.
one or you don't know the one.
I mean, it sounds familiar, but I don't know it off the top of my head. So,
It's a movie called Your Name.
nope. Don't know
Your
it.
Name.
I wouldn't have got that no matter what.
It's a body swap movie, which is really good. I mean, there's
Is
a
it?
reason.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm building up to the easy one. So number 4 is another anime movie from the 80s and maybe one of the most famous anime movies of all time.
Speed Racer.
No. The new Speed Racer, I guess was that a movie or was that a cartoon?
Oh, Akira.
Akira, yes, number 4.
Sorry, I said Speed Racer while seeing Akira's movie poster in my head.
Like I wanted to say no, the other one, but I got confused because Speed Racer, the new one's a live action, but I know that there was the cartoon. But yes, Akira
Yes.
number 4.
Okay.
And then number 2 is the first. Okay, this might be an exaggeration, and this is kind of a joke, but it's the first movie in your second favorite franchise. Fast and Furious number 1, number 2 franchise, a franchise that you'd only until recently just seen one movie in, but I would still say it's your second favorite franchise.
Oh, what is it?
Again, keeping in mind it's kind of a joke, but also you genuinely love the one movie. And it's near and dear to your heart, to the patron who picked this movie.
I know. Is it Breaking Dawn Part 2, Twilight Saga?
But it's the first movie in the franchise.
Oh, is that Eclipse?
Nope, you gotta even simpler.
Twilight?
Twilight. There we go.
Okay.
Blue Crush, Twilight, Your Name, and Akira.
So Joey was telling that joke. I don't know if you guys know the background to that.
We've talked about
We talk about
Twilight forever, and we talked about Kate Hudson, but I don't know if we talked about your history, the weird history you have with it.
We used to go to this thing. It was a digital drive-in movie, right? And they would have different themes for every day of the week. And it was like if you wanted to show up, you would show up and they'd play movies. And they did one day was called Shit Film Wednesday. That was my favorite day of the week. Because as you guys know, I like terrible movies. One of the movies that they played was Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2. Now, I had never seen any of the other Twilight movies, and I asked if that was a prerequisite. They said, absolutely not. It's way better if you don't see any of the other ones. I said, cool. I watched it. I think that Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2 was probably one of the best film experiences I've ever had because it was just pure fucking chaos and I didn't know who any of the characters were or what they were doing. So for the longest time I refused to watch the rest of the Twilights, worrying that they could ruin Breaking Dawn Part 2 for me by seeing the rest of them. But when quarantine started, there was a Twilight marathon on. Rachel's like, I think it's time. And I was like, I agree with you. They're all so bad that they're some of my favorite movies of all time. I agree that this is a great franchise. And to know that Robert Pattinson's such a great fucking actor and he had to sit through 5 of these movies.
Yeah, but I mean, they gave him the financial freedom to do whatever he wants. He has fuck you money now because of Twilight.
He does. We see Robert Pattinson. What was he? He was Cedric Diggory in Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're like, okay, cool. Like that was like okay, but he's Cedric Diggory. He's not Harry. Then you see him in Twilight play Edward Cullen for fucking 5 movies in like 6 years, whatever. And then you see him do like Good Times or something, and you're like, bro, you had to be holding back so hard. Like they just need to let him free, man. Put the foot on the gas. He could have done so much more. But you're right. Without doing Twilight, he wouldn't have fuck you money to do whatever movies he wants. And as you guys know, we've talked about that. We think that he's going to be a great Batman, and are very hopeful for the new Batman with Robert Pattinson. Yes, that was Joey's joke about why I love that franchise too.
And some under the radar-ish sort of Robert Pattinson movies, in addition to, of course, The Lighthouse and Good Time. He was in a movie from, I think, 2013-ish, maybe, called The Rover with Guy Pearce, which is great. He's also in a movie called The Lost City of Z, directed by James Gray, who just directed last year Ad Astra, which is also great. So he's been doing
what was
serious
the space
heavy
one
work.
that he did?
Oh, he was in High Life, which is crazy, which is also great. But that is like an insane. a female French director just doing like bonkers shit in space. It's like, oh my, like how is this? Yeah, so that's also great. He basically everything he's done. He did a movie called Cosmopolis, which I have not seen yet, but as like it's one of those movies that people are either like, this is the greatest movie we've ever seen, or like, fuck that movie. So like, he's basically been doing serious work for like close to a decade now, but he just had that stigma of Twilight, for better or worse, attached to him, but now he's
this is why when everybody came out and they were like, fucking Robert Pattinson, the guy from Twilight, that sucks, and we're like, no dude, have you not seen any of his recent movies? Because he's like a great actor, he really is, and like nobody just wants to give him the credit for it, or like, you know, has seen him in recent things, and we're like, dude, he's a serious fucking actor in like crazy ass movies. He's gonna be a great Batman.
Joe, next episode, so I'm not going to say what we're gonna do next episode because I don't want to jinx the one thing just in case it doesn't happen. I think it's going to, but you will have heard in the intro to this what our next episode is. So either we'll be continuing Reef Week with Finding Nemo as planned, or we'll be calling an audible and doing something different, something more current, more timely. But you'll find out in the intro. You've
been so dodgy lately.
Well, I just want to. I don't want to like hype
I'm teasing.
something.
I know why. I know why. I know. I'm just teasing you. Again, the other joke is that we really thought we would be able to interview Andy, but Joey was like, I can't say it yet until it happens. Yeah. So, like, he kept saying, like, our next movie is Blue Crush, and we were like, no, it's not.
But yes, so we are either going to continue Reef Week or we're not. And, you know, we're going to do Finding Nemo one way or the other because Haley paid for it, and we will be true to our word. I just don't know if it's going to come on Friday or later in the lap. But that was Blue Crush, the kickoff to Reef Week, which is going to become Reef Lap, I guess. It's Reef Week until we finish it. So,
dude, there's so many fucking surfing movies involved with Fast and the Furious, right? Because we had Into the Blue, we had Blue Crush, we had Point Break. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a lot of surfing involved for us to never see surfing in Fast and the Furious.
Well,
we do see jet skis.
It's action sport adjacent, right?
Oh,
so yeah,
that's a good connection because we see the jet skis with Tej and 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Very true. Very good points. For all things Too Fast, Too Forever, you go to cageclub.me, facebook.com/TooFastTooForever, or at TooFastTooForever on Twitter and Instagram. Email us, family@cageclub.me. Check out our Patreon page at TooFastTooForever.com. Shout out once again to Brian High School Slumber Party Rodriguez for sponsoring this episode.
And happy birthday. It's his birthday today as we're
recording on his birthday. I meant to say that earlier, so happy belated to you, Brian.
Yes.
Go check out his podcast. He does every year. He has his own birthday for the show. He does 16 candles, so birthday related. Go check those out. He's got 2 of those, but he's still putting out 2 episodes a week, so go check out High School Slumber Party. Patreon page at TooFastTooForever.com. Again, send us an email at family@cageclub.me. And come back on Friday for question marks. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too.
And we'll tell you all about it.
See